Hello, folks. Hello, friends. How we doing? And the next episode of Story Time with Pops. We ended Chapter 8, Shadow Crossing, last episode. So we're into episode 35. And we will start Chapter 9, Out of Mind. And Out of Mind is very emotional, very intense chapter. A lot going on. It's also brought in a couple of characters whom one of you've already got to know. So here we go. Like I said before in our previous encounter, the marriage was supposed to be getting better because that's what she wanted. She wanted to get married. She wanted to get a house of her own. She wanted a better life, and we got that. But what she didn't want was more kids. And once she got pregnant, when we found out she was pregnant with twins, she
wasn't happy.
She wasn't very happy
at first,
and she started to resent me for getting her pregnant. When, in fact, it takes two to do it. Yeah, I can't just do it myself. In fact, I'm gonna be a little blunt with it. If I'm on the bottom and you're on top and you're in the lead, and I tell you 2 or 3 times I'm fixing to boom, and you refuse to pull out, it's just as much as your fault as it was mine. And that's how I perceived it. But that's not how she saw it. Like I said, we got caught up in the heat of passion, and then, it happened. And there's nothing, you can't go back and change it. The seeds already been planted. We don't believe in abortion, so the twins begin to form. And we begin to fight. We began to argue. And we began to resent each other. And we began to hate each other. She would use my temper against me as a weapon. I've got a bad temper. She knew it. She knew before we met I had a bad temper. But she would use it as a weapon against me. She would use the kids as a weapon against me. She'd call me a bastard. I would call her a bitch. And we just went back and forth with it. And this next poem I'm going to read came about after a very intense argument that we had. Again, like I said, it didn't start off every day arguing and fighting. It gradually became that. It gradually became an everyday battle royale. We tried to make time for each other. We tried to go out on outings, tried to go to the movies. One time the kids were at a ball game. And she went by herself. I was too pissed off to go along. And this poem came about this and it just kind of explains the situation as it was getting to unfold. Because as it was starting to unfold, the fighting and the arguing, like I said, she blamed me, put all the blame on me, started putting the blame partially on herself. And I think part of it was she was mad at herself because she got caught up in the heat of passion, and I think she was more mad at herself, but she needed an outlet. She wanted someone to take it out on. And that, of course, was the person that got her pregnant. So here it is. This is War Zone. war zone. Standing there, my heart pounding in my chest. I look at them. I glare at them. My enemies, I intensely stare at them, knowing they're waiting for something bad to happen. I sweat a cold sweat. I'm hot within. My blood boiling. I shake. I tremble. Eyes are burning. Anger is racing throughout my body. Fear, anticipation. My teeth begin to grind. My soul within, fighting, trying to hold back. My hand a firm grip on the death trigger. I raise my weapon slowly, ever so slowly. My enemies now with a fear they've only dreamed of. A fear from an ugly nightmare they once had. They are now looking directly down the barrel. In frustration, I fire. I yell out, I bellow. The screams. I cannot stop.
It was a little rough.
That's how pissed off I was at her. That's how mad I was. That's how angry she made me. And that's how angry I was to have someone use something I've been trying to fight against my entire life to contain, to control. And she would spend the next several years picking at it, preying on it, pulling at it, trying to get me to leave, trying to force me to leave. But I knew her history. I knew the history. The two oldest boys, her and her husband got into it, their father, and she packed up and left and would not let them see him. She got that. She used the kids against him. And eventually they got old enough to track down their father and found out he was a drunk anyway, so it was all for the best. Oh, excuse me, it's all for the best. Joey, the other one, it was a short stint, short relationship, and they got into it and they split up. But due to the fact he drank a lot, she wouldn't allow him to see his son. I attended a couple of court cases where there were custody issues and child support issues were in play. Heather, though, never knew her father until her age. When she was like 27 years old, she finally met him. But by that time, I'd already taken the place, and I was her father, period. So I knew if I left, I didn't want to take that chance on her using that against me as well and not being able to see my sons when they were born. And that would have pissed me off even more. So I stayed and I endured it. And when I got that angry, I would go to my bedroom, our bedroom, and I would close the door. And I would watch TV in there and I would listen to radio in there. I wouldn't even go near her. I would stay the hell away from her. And in turn, she would work extra hours at work when she didn't have to. She would stay 80 hours a day, 80 hours a week at work, refusing to come home because she didn't want to deal with me. So I had to take care of the kids. They were already there while she hung out at work. Yeah, it got ugly. And that's just the beginning of the ugliness. That was just the start of it. But anyway,
things get better.
We kept fighting with it. And I still found time to make other poems off the subject. And I was, still trying to raise kids, be the father. And so, as I sat down one day and tried to reflect, and this would become one of my longer blank verse poems. more of a story format. Although was going on, I tried to maintain a family-oriented atmosphere with myself and with the children. And I was trying very hard to control my anger, which was getting very, very difficult because she would start fights with me on purpose to get under my goat. And she, like I said, in the end, she finally admitted she was trying hard and she was trying to get me to leave, and I wouldn't do it. Here's the next poem. This one's called The Family. Past, Present, and the Future. It says rather long, interesting, more of a story than it is anything else. But I think you'll enjoy it. Staring at a blank piece of paper, wondering what to write down. Sitting here in the quiet room, contemplating my next move, trying to decide on what to do. I'm thinking of my present situation. A pregnant wife, a wrecked car. Yeah, we had a wreck. There was a wreck. And struggling considerably to make it to the next day. The twins will be my first, and I've been without a car before. Yet I survived, proving time and time again that I'll make it through no matter what. I've gotten stronger with every obstacle I face and conquer, and I've bettered myself as a person. When I think back to all I've had to overcome, I remember the good and the bad of it. When I told my dad, who was before I even born, and being visited by spirits, not once but twice, I remember growing up on the bayou and helping my cousin's dad in the fields. My cousin and I had some rough fights, but we always made up in the end. I remember getting beat by a babysitter by being able to ride in a squad car. The beatings didn't stop there. My dad lost control a lot when he got mad, but nowadays he wants to make amends for all the pain and the suffering he inflicted. My mom stood up for me when she could, her and my dad could never really get along. I remember taking advantage of all this when everyone else was in the mood to fight. I secluded myself in my own world, a world only I knew about and visited. Whether in my room with the door shut, walking through the woods, or going on an extended bike ride. Through thick and thin, though, I always had a caring grandmother. She became my shelter. God provided her for me. Sad part, though, is she won't be around much longer. He'll soon join a grandfather that had family that loved him dearly. He never knew what giving up meant and didn't care. I haven't seen my mom's side of the family for a while, but I'm sure they're all doing just fine. They survived the wars and struggles. My dad's side the same. Everybody remembering how he used to be, which in turn gives them a reason to march on. Everyone facing their own challenges. Everyone trying hard to succeed and no one giving up. I remember graduation from high school, then later from the military training camp, of which I ended up getting out of. The company fell apart and I was getting nowhere. Me and my cousin, brother, are both married and have settled down. We both talk about wanting to have done more and made better decisions, but everybody has made bad decisions. Point is, forget about it and move on. A new era has begun in my life, and his. He has already a son of his own. I have twins on the way. Everyone has gone their own way and chosen their own path. Where they end up is up to them as well as me. In the end, though, as we head toward the future, the one that fights the hardest leads the way for everyone to follow. To succeed even further, to do more than we ever thought possible. to be a better person for ourselves and the people around us. What do you think about that one?
I like that one.
It's kind of really hard, kind of really heartfelt. It was really thought through. And it kind of covers a lot of ground in a few short stanzas. And again, of course, like I said, I'm trying to avoid confrontation with her, so I spend a lot of time after I get the kids taken care of for breakfast and school and bed, and I get the house straightened up and I've done my job. I retreat to the room alone, the door shut, staying away from her as much as possible, because every time we was around each other, there was a confrontation. It started to be a confrontation every time we was beside each other. But so I had to point out the idea of, the Christian believes there's a worship of any brazen idol is strictly forbidden. Okay, so this is the drawback. This is the drawback, or the inspiration for this next point. It's a plain verse. It's a story of a man who worshipped an idol, and upon death realized he had taken the wrong path to salvation. Looking up from the depths of hell, he witnessed his son doing the same as he did, and becomes aware as he begs and pleads that he has condemned his own son to hell as well. So, sort of a story that can be transferred to something else, but that's what a lot of blank verses are. They're telling a story, and this is no different. And this poem, blank verse, is called "The Eyes of Death." So here we go. The eyes of death. You look at the statue. You sing, talk, and worship the statue. You look into its eyes. It seems real. Slowly, you are sucked into a world it gave you. You become very rich but unhappy. You keep making one enemy after another because you abuse your power over them. You are unhappily married because you can't be faithful. You can do anything you want, be anything you want, yet you're unhappy. The front you put forth is very misleading, but the statue tells you it gets better, though it never does. You become overwhelmed with the power you have, but without warning, an enemy you made along the way brings about your end. This enemy leaves your son without a father. You look toward your Savior for an answer, and he laughs at you, scolds you, and a lake of fire engulfs you. The eyes you thought were of life are that of death. You now look toward the truth in the way of golden straits, the way you were told of but ignored. The door is slammed shut. Then as your body is put in the ground and your soul burns in hell, you can see your son sobbing as he clutches the statue. He begins to talk to it as you scream from hell for him not to listen, not to believe it. But you realize your failure when he can't hear you. You realize you doomed your own son to suffer the same fate as you. You realize the truth was there and you said nothing. He now sits down with the statue in front of him, praying to it as you once did. He walks in your footsteps, for as you once looked into those eyes, your son is now looking into those very same eyes. The eyes that you realize now are not the eyes of light, but the eyes of despair. They are the eyes of pain and deceit. They are the eyes of death.
Well, that's kind of dark.
Woo! But it's true though. I mean, it's true. It's factual, and you know, if you lead a bad life, and you lead
A false
a
life.
false life, and you go down a dark path,
You get
you don't realize the people you care about follow in your footsteps. They follow what you do. They do what you do. They go in the same direction you're going. You're being watched. And
so be careful what you do.
be careful.
So it might hurt not
What?
only you, but
Be careful.
someone else you
Be
care
careful of the
about.
choices. Yeah, be careful of the choices that you make. Be careful of the decisions you make. Well, they don't just affect you. They affect the people around you that care about you, that look up to you. And some people who look up to you, you become their idol. You become their hero. You become the reason for them being alive, for them being here.
And it becomes your responsibility to lead them in the right direction.
Exactly. It becomes your responsibility to lead them in the right direction. Because if you live in the wrong direction, they follow you down the path that goes nowhere. Anyway, this will end this episode, this segment. Like I said, I'm making the segments a little shorter. Instead of 30 to 35, from 20 to 25 minutes. We're getting to the heart of the situation here. There's a lot going to be going on. And the next segment here, there's a big deal fixing to happen. And it's going to cover a lot of territory. So we'll see you next time for episode 36, chapter 9, Out of Mind. In the meantime, catch you later.
Peace.
Take care.